Solo queuing competitive games is always going to be harder than playing with people you know and trust. However, it doesn't have to feel impossible to climb solo. This is the third week of my speedrun to Masters for the first time series for Apex, and this week I didn't get to play much at all. I was just extremely busy, so I figured I could use my thousands of hours solo queuing competitive shooters and climbing the high ranks in all of them to potentially help someone who also solo queues. In the background is just a pretty decent game I got during my limited playtime. Nothing great, obviously, but I'll take what I can get. The first and most important tip for soloing any ranked game is keeping in mind that you are the only person you should focus on. A lot of players tend to complain about their teammates saying that they are the reason they're not able to climb, but to be honest, if you aren't climbing, then you aren't good enough to deserve a higher rank yet. And also, if you're more focused on complaining about your teammates rather than focusing on yourself, if you see your, other people as the problem in your own mind, you'll be like, okay, I don't have to change anything because I haven't done anything wrong. It's their fault. And if you think that way, you're not going to improve, you're not going to make progress. And that's why I think it's the most important. Tip number 2 plays off of tip 1, and it is to keep an improvement mindset. What I mean by this is, every time you die or lose a fight in your game of choice, instead of complaining or even putting yourself down, just think to yourself, why did I die and how could I have played that situation differently in order to have won the fight instead? You want to get into the habit of immediately identifying and correcting mistakes you make rather than defaulting to complaining about something that is out of your control, such as the game itself or your team. And after doing this enough times, you may start to notice patterns, which will help you identify certain aspects that you need to work on. It also makes it so you don't really need to VOD review. I find this to work more effectively than VOD reviews since it's kind of an immediate correction, and after correcting the same mistake enough times, your brain starts to automatically make the better decision so that you don't have to correct it again. But it does take time though. It's not instant. You're not going to get better just after, one game of doing this. It takes time, like everything. Tip 3, know your limits. In whatever game you play, you should know your own playstyle and how far your abilities realistically lie. So if you have a more aggressive playstyle, for example, you should know how good your aim and movement are and constantly work on improving those. But you also need to learn all the aspects of your style. So for aggressive play, positioning plays a massive role in your overall effectiveness since it's very easy to put yourself in a position to die without getting much value if you just W key in blindly. And I've noticed a lot of not as good aggressive players in games, they'll just kind of run in and die and they're like, oh, but my aim is better than their aim. Why am I dying? It's because positioning, for instance, is just such an overlooked aspect of playing up, playing far up, W keying, aggressive play, whatever, that I think it gets missed out a lot on. And I think that's what holds a lot of players back. And that's why I think for whatever your playstyle is, you need to be able to look around, at other creators or other people who are higher ranked than you, who have your same play style, and see how they play and see what other aspects of their play is different from yours. See what you're lacking based off of people who play the same as you, but better, if that makes sense. In a game like Apex, popping up in the line of sight of a full team, even if they are all mechanically worse than you, is a guaranteed death. To put simply, you should understand how you play and be conscientious. I cannot say this word. Conscientious. Conscientious? Is that it? Conscientious of how you to. What am I saying? I'm sorry. That word just ruined me there. I'll leave this in. Yeah, to put simply, you should understand how you play and be conscientious of how to make the most of each aspect of your style. That word is just insane. Tip number 4, be adaptable. It might sound a bit contradictory to tip 3, but it is important to be able to adapt to the many situations in games, such as your random teammates. You don't have to completely change styles, but you should learn to adjust to different types of players since you're the only person you can control, and that means you have to be the glue to hold your team together by forcing your potentially clashing styles to mesh. As an example, if you are an aggressive player playing with randoms that like to rat in Apex, you can maybe pick up some mid-range weapons and go on your own to third-party nearby fights and being ready to dip out back to your team when the attention gets drawn to you, or you can take pop shots at a distance at people you see nearby and hope to have them push you, which will in turn force a fight that your teammates can't really ignore. You won't be able to really push teams, but you can still take fights without throwing your life away and spectating the most boring players ever until they inevitably die with maybe a single kill. It's all about finding a way to make things work without completely going against who you are as a player. Tip number 5, be adaptable part 2. Every match you play against new opponents. So something you did in the previous match may not work as well in a new one. When you notice certain things aren't working too well against the other team, you should switch things up and find what does work against them. If you do the same things over and over again, even though it clearly isn't working, you won't get anywhere. Pay attention to how your enemies play and take note of their tendencies. This works more with games like Valorant, CS, Overwatch, etc. Since in games like that, you have multiple lives and can kill and die to your opponents many times before the game ends. And yeah, that's all I got. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I truly hope this helps you make progress in your solo journey, because it certainly has helped me. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.